Thank you. My pleasure to do so. I want to start out by just offering kudos to the presenters, to the organizers of this asthma summit for some very compelling information and for fighting the good fight. I'm left with a question about, unless this is just an academic exercise, what do we do with the data? How does that inform our actions? And, I want to just address briefly why that's an important question. And from my perspective, it's an important question because our regional leadership is found lacking. Let me just cite a few examples. Our Allegheny County Executive, Rich Fitzgerald, cheers the polluters, US Steel and others. He doesn't show up at these kinds of events. He doesn't talk about air pollution. And that's a problem for us because Allegheny County is the steward of our enforcement mechanism for environmental protection. Second of all, the Allegheny County Health Department, under his leadership, has weak enforcement procedures. It was mentioned the fire explosion, whatever, at the Metallico plant. And when inquiries were made by important community groups as to what was the source of that and what was being done, basically the Allegheny County Health Department said, you know what, that's for the fire department to determine. Well, no, the fire department is not charged with environmental protection. During inversions, we get very weak, and this is very recent, very weak directions that are offered as suggestions, really, to polluters. Well, we have an aversion, maybe you'd want to cut back a little, but there's no enforcement of that. Jim Kelly, who is the immediate past Deputy Director of Environmental Health at the Allegheny County Health Department, in conversations he had directly with me, expressed the belief that the advocacy community were his opponents, that he could not accept the use of certain technologies like the smell app, like video confirmation of pollution. And he was pretty much wedded to 19th, early 20th century methodology. Have a few inspectors, they have to go out and look at the problem. And what's the Allegheny County Health Department answer to Jim Kelly leaving? We don't have a successor to Jim Kelly. So we don't even have a somewhat limited Deputy Director of Environmental Protection. What we have instead is a new Chief Operating Officer who has cut off all communications from the outside with staff at the Health Department. So we have a problem there. Then we have the Allegheny Conference on Community Development, created 77 years ago to be an active partner with government, then the city of Pittsburgh, not the county, because the city was then in charge of these issues, to deal with smoke pollution. 2 years ago, December 2019, almost 2 years ago, the Allegheny Conference held what it called its next 75-year event. Invited lots of people participated. By the way, US Steel was one of the sponsors. People's Gas was one of the sponsors, but that's okay. Maybe it could be an honest discussion. Even though they were the partner with the city of Pittsburgh 75 years ago, now 77 years ago, no mention of the air pollution problem in their plan for the next 75 years. Last of all, I've focused on the healthcare establishment. They have information, they know the problems better than we do, the illnesses that we suffer. They know about cause and effect, but they're more focused on treatment rather than prevention. And that's a problem. It's a problem for all of us. And the fact of life is, if you get on the UPMC website, under the heading of environmental illness, they will say the following. I just checked it out again to be sure it was still there. They will focus on, well, what are the issues around environmental illness? Chemicals such as cigarettes, asbestos, wood burning stoves, unsafe drinking water, certain chemicals in the workplace, lead and lead poisoning. No mention of air pollution. by the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, who is certainly a partner in this program. So what are we doing and how do we address this? In my last couple of minutes, I'd like to focus on the town hall approach that we have taken. Resident-led town halls, they're done virtually. We've had 4 of them. We build them on local voices, people expressing lived experience, what it's like to live in these areas. What's it like to live anywhere here? What's it like to be an environmental justice community? What's it like when nobody gives you any instruction on what to do? And we built a coalition, I believe, a significant one with 4 town halls. At our last town hall, which was just held very recently, we talked about the fact that we sent a letter, certified, hard copy, return receipt requested, to the CEO presidents of Allegheny Health Network and the UPMC, and to the chairs of their board, basically saying, we'd like to collaborate with you. One of our earlier presenters talked about the need to collaborate with healthcare establishment. Well, what's the answer we got to this letter? We didn't get an answer. And when I got on their websites to try to figure out how to communicate with those people, the only information I could find was the ability to communicate with their vice presidents of communication, which I did, and sent a copy of those letters maybe 2 weeks ago and said, how can we get some conversation going here? And again, the answer was no answer. So what comes next is we're going to continue to have these town halls, but I believe that we need to get past data collection, although everybody should continue to collect data, it's important, and doing crucial research, which many of you are doing, and I commend that. But we need to take that data and turn it into action, advocacy, and activism. And that's what we want to do coming forward with our next town hall and beyond. I'll borrow in closing a term from constitutional law. We're facing a clear and present danger. That's the standard that was used by the Supreme Court to decide, well, when can you limit freedom of speech? I prefer in this case to use clear and present danger as when can we say enough is enough? That we have to have the people charged with doing this job actually doing the job. Instead of humoring us, instead of getting us off on tangents, let's step up to the plate. And I call on the healthcare establishment. Many of you have a voice in that. Our universities who have been silent on these issues too, to really begin to say, this can't be our future. It has to be our past. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.